Thank you so much. Micheal.
Thank you for your question. First and foremost, there will be a meeting of the American delegation in Russia. We will be awaiting for respective signals from them. They would like to report immediately after the meeting, specifically to us. I think based on these signals, depending what they will be like, will depend the future of our future steps. These steps will be changing today almost on an hourly basis. We will be getting signals, and if those signals are going to work as fair play, if it's a fair play with our partners, if it's going to be perceived as fair play by our partners, perhaps we will then meet very soon. We will soon meet with the American delegation. At what level we'll see, it depends again on the signals we're going to get. If the signals are going to be like, that will give us the opportunity and a chance of quick solutions, global and quick solutions, then the level will be high. If this is still going to be at the level of dialogue, there's been a lot of dialogue, but we need results. Every day our people are dying. With all due respect to all nations of the world who are supporting and helping us, some of them do, some of them don't, unfortunately. It's Ukrainians who are dying. The dialogues can continue, of course, but we need the results. We need the outcome. We can simply talk, or we can achieve the maximum results so we could bring the end of the war closer. I'm prepared to support all signals. I'm prepared to meet with President Trump. It all depends on today's talks. Thank you.
And could I say, first of all, I endorse that message very strongly. A peace settlement is required. A ceasefire is required. Too many people are dying in what is a terrible and horrific war. In relation to the immobilised assets, the Irish position is very clear. We support the utilisation of the immobilised assets to fund the reconstruction of Ukraine and to support Ukraine financially. We support the Commission's proposals in terms of a collateral loan on the back of these immobilised assets towards that objective of supporting Ukraine financially and also the reconstruction. The principle underpinning our position is that when the UN Charter is violated in such a brutal manner, when there is devastation of civilian infrastructure, energy infrastructure, of cities and so forth, there has to be a deterrence against such behaviour into the future. And in my view, the application of the immobilised assets represents both a deterrence to future activity. There has to be accountability, there has to be some responsibility on the aggressor who has wreaked such devastation on a country. Secondly, there's a very practical issue of the enormity of the reconstruction of Ukraine and the cost of that, and who's going to pay for that. It cannot just only be the European taxpayer. Europe did not start this war. Europe tried everything to prevent this war. European leaders, I witnessed their reports back to us when they pleaded with President Putin not to invade Ukraine. So that is our position. I hope that the December meeting will come to a conclusion. We fully respect the concerns of the Belgian government, fully respect, and these issues have to be ironed out, and it has to be a collective agreement across the European Union. And yes, it will be challenging to get that collective agreement, but Ireland's very clearly supportive of the Commission's position.
Thank you. Next question to Paul Cunningham.
Paul Cunningham from RT. Lascovo prossimo di Irlandi, pane Presidente. If I can ask you first, you mentioned the need for a fair and decent peace plan. Some believe that your Parliament faces a real dilemma, either a bad peace deal soon or a worse peace deal next year or the year after, given some Russian advances in around towns like Pokrovsk, which they claim to have taken. What's your response to that analysis? And Taoiseach, you mentioned about the big push for Ukraine to join the European Union. We have many tens of thousands of Ukrainians here who are on temporary protection. If they're going to be joining the European Union, can't you make a one-off to ensure that they will be able to apply for citizenship and they wouldn't have to wait 5 years, because at the moment the clock hasn't started ticking because they're under temporary protection? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. First and foremost, I'd like to say there will be no simple solutions. We understand that what's happening. We understand who we're dealing with. The the question is, it's not about the complexity of decision-making. Those who are capable of making these decisions will do that. I am capable of making decisions. It's important that this should be all open and fair and just. So there would be no game behind Ukraine's back. Nothing would be decided without Ukraine, about our future. If we're talking about the guarantees for security of Ukraine, and there is a signal about the frame document, then we have to clearly understand what it's going to be like and how it's going to work. At least basic things. Because, you see, it's not an experiment for us. We're talking about our people, our living people. The Russians started the war, and there are no alternatives in this formulation. They started the war. The world is a witness to that. They came with the aggression to annihilate us. We stopped them. Europe helped us. America helped us. Russia has not managed to occupy Ukraine because of the resilience of Ukrainian people and the strength of Ukrainian army and, of course, our partners. We stopped them, and as the United States said, we stopped them shedding a lot of blood, and we fully support them. But we have to stop the war in such a manner that in 1 year Russia would not come back with a third invasion over the last 10 years. That may happen. That can happen because that was their main objective. They have not reached their objectives to occupy our state. I'm not sure that their objectives changed. They could have postponed their objectives, but we need support, a defense for that. What will happen tomorrow when our soldiers will go back home, go back home? Unfortunately, not all of them. Many of them won't come back home alive anymore. When they go back home, become engineers, teachers, various professions, and they'll come back, but the Russia will continue building up their army and defenses, preparing for the next invasion. Who can tolerate and endure that? Our people are strong, but with all due respect, that's why we want a certainty. We're grateful to the United States for the fact that they are prepared to be a guarantor of this security, but we want these guarantees. We want to understand this. We're grateful to Europe. We are grateful for Ukraine being seen in the European Union. And for us, it's important when this century or next century we're going to be in the European Union. So a certainty for Ukrainian people is what we need.
Was one of the early advocates and supporters of Ukrainian membership of the European Union. It is a critical part of the future security of Ukraine, but also as a country that has experienced the transformative impact of membership of the European Union, we believe the Ukrainian people deserve to experience similar transformative impact of being a member of the European Union, and that would give freedom of movement to all Ukrainians and all Europeans, which is a very basic principle of the Union. We don't contemplate advancing that in advance of membership, although what we're endeavouring to do when we assume the presidency of the European Union in the latter half of next year is to accelerate the enlargement agenda. That is one of the key objectives for the Irish presidency, to see can we get chapters negotiated. We've discussed that, and we'll be very proactive in that regard. We will continue to engage with the Ukrainian community in Ireland, and obviously we understand it's under the BOTP at the moment, the directive, but obviously we're going to have to work with the Ukrainian community who've been here for quite some time now since the war. Many have come, many have gone back to Ukraine or elsewhere, and many are contributing in terms of work and in terms of setting up businesses as well.
Okay, thank you. Jennifer from Bloomberg.
Hi, President. A question for you. You said that the latest plan that emerged from the recent talks looks better. Can you give us some details of what's in it? And do you have plans to meet with US envoy Steve Witkoff in the coming days?
Thank you.
yesterday and with him and with all his team, and we spoke. I think I already answered on your question that we are waiting for the results in America-Russia negotiations, today's results, and I will react according to the results. If I feel that we can count on real, specific dialogue, not just words, with some result, we will meet, and he's very welcome to Ukraine. But I'm not sure that they are up on this way, this day, they're ready to come. But who knows? So I want to wait till today's evening. And what about the points? I'm not sure that I'm ready to share all the points of this plan, but I think that you saw a lot of things in media. But what can I say? I think that the most sensitive things and the most difficult questions, or questions with the challenges, it's about territories. It's about frozen assets, because I can't just myself speak on behalf of European leaders. It's about money, which are frozen, but in Europe. It's about common decision of Europeans. I can only have partnership and share my view of this and support, and they can support me, but I can't decide on behalf of leaders about the money which are in EU. And this is the third point I mentioned about security guarantees, and we count on strong security guarantees from the United States, both United States and Europe and some other leaders. And you know that the topic of coalition of the willings is we work with this. So I think these three topics, the most sensitive and the most important, and I think that our teams will continue work on it. Thank you.
Okay, our final question from Louise Byrne.
One more. Yeah.
Thank you. President Zelensky, yourself and the Taoiseach both spoke about the number of Ukrainian people living in Ireland, and you said yourself it has not been easy. The Irish government recently reduced the number of guaranteed days that a Ukrainian refugee is in state accommodation. Are you concerned that that means that the support that the Irish government once had for Ukrainian refugees is not as strong as it was? And then Taoiseach, may I ask you, you've spoken at length about the supports that need to be put in place for Ukraine after the war. What does that look like from an Irish point of view, and will Ireland be sending peacekeepers to the Ukraine?
Yeah.
Okay, I go first now. Will I?
Yeah. Please, Micheal.
Or do we want consistency? Okay. Could I? Will I go?
Yeah, please.
First of all, we will continue to support Ukrainians in Ireland, and in respect of future support of Ukraine. In the event of a ceasefire or a peace settlement, yes, Ireland will be open to monitoring any ceasefire or indeed aspects of a peace settlement. We have long experience in the Lebanon, in Africa, in terms of peace monitoring, peacekeeping, and certainly we're all wishing for the end of the war. And Ireland is certainly open to contributing to peacekeeping and to peace monitoring in Ukraine. We are also obviously willing to help in reconstruction, and quite a number of Irish companies are operating within Ukraine, and particularly in the construction field. I think there's a lot that can be done there. We already provide a lot in terms of shelters for schools, school meals, and we provide supports in those areas, humanitarian supports and so on. And we're open again to doing, along with our European Union colleagues, to invest in a range of programs to support the reconstruction of Ukraine.
If I may, I will answer that in Ukrainian. Ireland, from the very beginning of the war, chose this side, in my opinion, an honest side, not because I'm the president of Ukraine, but because that's the right thing. It's values-based. And Ireland chose the side of supporting Ukraine and helping Ukrainians. Ireland has been helping Ukrainians who stayed behind in Ukraine and has been helping Ukrainians who have moved to Ireland. And we're grateful for that. The way I was brought up is that I can't criticize for help, whether it's getting more or less. We should be grateful. We should be grateful and not to forget about this. And I do believe very much that you've been doing this not just to help us simply, but you've been doing this because you understand what we were going through. You understand it, I think, historically speaking, and based on values. And therefore, we are grateful for your choice. The question is not about the size of help assistance. It's about the choice. Thank you.
Thank you.